Death is not the end. Beginning of the new flesh. The new flesh.
Hashtag horror lifestyle.
Forgive me if I don't stay around to watch. I just can't cope with freaky stuff.
Welcome to the New Flesh Podcast, a podcast about horror movies and all things tangentially related to horror movies, horror franchises, horror news, A24 horror movies that may or may not be horror movies or, become one eventually but aren't really not. We cover all of these things. This week, we are covering an A24 movie. It's called Opus. Am I talking about that one, or am I talking about the one that comes out in 2 weeks? That's called Death of a Unicorn. That I cannot get much read on the tone of that one. Seems very confusing. The comparisons I've seen are like Jurassic Park, which is so strange.
Wow, that actually.
Are you going to that tomorrow?
Excited. No, is that no one?
It's one of those you have to reach out and beg for information.
No,
and they go, here.
Yeah, I'm not assigned to review it, and I've got a busy week, so I might actually just go and I might pay to see it right after I pay to see a special earlier than the press screening showing of Woman in the Window next week.
Oh, the Woman in the Yard, not the Woman in the Window.
Right,
the Woman in the Window,
right.
she fell out,
yeah,
and now she's in the yard.
Yeah.
Correct. So yeah, that is the weirdest. I can't recall the last that ever happening with a Universal picture, especially
that's
like a
that's
real
usually
movie.
more of a Lionsgate move, I would say.
Yeah. For those not in the know, and why would you be? The Woman in the Yard is a movie that's opening. It's a Jean-Colette Serrat horror movie, so Jesse and I are both already excited. about it.
Yeah.
And presumably, the screening would usually be the Monday or Tuesday of that week, Wednesday at worst. It is actually the Thursday that it comes out, and it comes out at public screenings at AMC's all across the country at 2 p.m., and the screening is at like 6 or 6:30 or something.
not even 6. 6:30.
Not even 6. And they want to embargo you, so you can't talk about it if you go see it at that time until a certain time later that night or something. So it is just outrageous. I mean, they can't embargo us because we're going to go see it at 2 o'clock.
Right.
Publicly.
We found the loophole, which is see it before in the public.
The loophole is it's playing in 3,000 plus theaters or whatever.
Just a tiny. That's
so stupid.
You're right. It's very inside, but I was tickled by that, and also it is a weird, as far as like horror news that does indicate the studio thinks people are not going to like this.
I mean, that indicates they're mortified by it. Like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on?
Like the trailer, I'm not saying it's
don't show your hand, you guys. Just act cool, and we'll all think that it's going to be fine.
Right, like the trailer doesn't betray any. Oh my god, this is a disaster. It looks like kind of a low budget horror movie, like not low budget, even cheap looking. I just mean like a single location type of horror movie. It looks cool. I'm confused about this, but sometimes studios, as people said on Twitter, sometimes studios just don't know when their movies are good or not. For example, someone might show Opus at Sundance, assuming that critics would go wild for it, and then find out that was not the case at all. So, sometimes people just don't know what people are going to think of a movie.
It's nuts. Hopefully it's good and they just are completely off with their we think it sucks vibes. But we'll report back on that. Is that next week's episode? Or no, the week after that, I guess, because this episode's coming late. After, this weekend, sorry to everyone for the lateness. Jesse and I couldn't coordinate our schedules, and I refuse to record on Sundays now because of family. I got family now, and it's the Lord's Day. I got to sit in my yard in my tank top with Coronas. It's Vin's Day.
You have a yard that could work for that. You could definitely sit in your yard with Coronas in a tank. It's perfect.
Vin, I am available for Fast 11. I hear you're shooting in L.A. to honor the wildfires. Let's start some more. Let's go. Anyway, next week we'll probably be back with Ash, the Flying Lotus directed horror film that's, I think, in theaters before it goes on Shudder. or maybe it's on Shudder first. I don't really know. I have seen it, and now Unlocked, the Sam Raimi produced horror film with Bill Skarsgård and Anthony Hopkins. I've seen both of these. Jesse, I hope you can find time for those next week. Oh, actually, wait, those are for this weekend? Oh my God.
I'm seeing Ash tonight, actually, because they're doing a preview of it, and I thought it might be cool looking on the big screen, and they also never got back to me about a streaming link.
I had to beg for that one, too, but I did get it.
I'm excited to see it on a big screen. If it looks like one of those things where its shortcomings might be helped by a big screen. And I think someone did, I think I am going to be doing Locked just like at home or whatever. Is that coming out this weekend? My God,
it is allegedly. Yes, there's too many. Yeah, I think there's like 10 that Mark and I are doing. Despite it being horrific, we're not going to cover Magazine Dreams on the New Flesh podcast, but that's also out. Jesse and I have seen Snow White, so if you care about that, maybe we will get into a bonus about it, because Jesse and I both were like, that was kind of cute and fun, despite a lot of other stuff going on. So we'll talk about that probably. So that's all the preview of what's to come. This episode is Opus. Other horror things that came out this week, though. Borderline is like I would call a horror thriller comedy with Samara Weaving and Ray Nicholson. It's a Nepo Baby feast. Speaking of Nepo Baby feast, Novocaine's also out in theaters. All three of the people in the starring roles in there. Amber Midthunder's mom is a casting director. A very
I saw that on
Opus.
On Opus, she
belied the fact.
Yeah. Ray Nicholson is in both of them.
I know.
And I spent all of not all of Novocaine, a lot of Novocaine going, man, Alden Ehrenreich really deserves better. And then
it were so simple, my friend.
Yeah. I was like, it's not fair that he has to be the low rent villain in this movie, you know, like, and then I was like, oh, it's not him. That's good. I'm glad for him that it's not. But it's he looks. I mean, I know he looks like his dad, Jack Nicholson, but he also kind of looks like Alden Ehrenreich, doesn't he?
It's true. I support this theory. I'm into it. So we'll talk about all these things at one point or another, but this episode is Opus. And those other movies will be talked about on the Roger and Me podcast, if you care about that. But I'm actually glad we're late this week, because there's like a lot of late-breaking news in the genre.
I had multiple people ask me about the main story here. Like, are you going to convene a New Flesh episode immediately to talk about it? So it is good that we
the stars aligned in that we're really bad at scheduling this out, and here we are recording this on a Wednesday when it should have been out on a Monday at midnight. So anyway, the big news of the week that we foretold here on the podcast, if you recall, there were rumors in the air. Due to the lack of a word from Lionsgate on what was going on with the Saw 11 movie, that at one point was announced to come out on September 27th, 2024, and then shortly after that it was moved a year later to September 2025, and that's the last we heard from it, right? Like, it was going to come out this year, despite us hearing nothing about it,
right?
And now multiple outlets are reporting, including Bloody Disgusting with their own source and Hollywood Reporter with a different source, because there's a lot more information in the Hollywood Reporter. Saw 11 is, in fact, it appears to be dead at the moment. The Hollywood Reporter has learned zero progress has been made on the next installment of the Saw franchise since writing partners Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunstan turned it in a draft back in spring of 2024. This is an interview now with Melton. He says, "We haven't heard anything since May." Who's been involved with the franchise since 2007, Saw 4, I believe. It's stalled at a managerial level. It has nothing to do with the creative or anything else. There's higher level things at play. You'll remember that in December 2023, Lionsgate announced that franchise mainstay Kevin Greutert was attached to direct Saw 11 for that September 2024 date, but they ultimately delayed it to a year, September 26, 2025. Greutert helmed Saw X, which revitalized the franchise when it hit theaters in September 2023 and made $112 million at the global box office. It's unclear if he's still involved in Saw 11, and Lionsgate did not respond when they asked about it. Melton points out that Saw X did well, and the team has a concept that they're proud of for the next movie. They intended to tackle a timely topic, although plot details have not yet been shared publicly. The writer likens the new project's premise to the timeliness of the 2000 release Saw 6, in which health insurance executives are targeted by John Kramer, a.k.a. Jigsaw. The topic garnered renewed attention with the recent murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Saw 11 may or may not be made, but we have a very timely story in it, and I hope it gets made just because of that, says Melton. It taps into the same themes as Saw 6, which is a fan favorite. I'm adding that part. Where you're a citizen, you feel angry and frustrated with something, you feel like you can't do anything, and John Kramer's going to do it. Adds the writer about Saw 11. The reason it's held up is just that there's inner squabbling between producers and Lionsgate. They just can't quite get on the same page. Melton recalls that critics reacted favorably to Saw 6, but that feature was heard at the box office by Paranormal Activity, hitting theaters a month before. Saw 6 was the one that got cut in half because of Paranormal Activity, which was odd because it was the best reviewed one at the time. We've talked about that and how.
Yes, yeah, I like that the Hollywood Reporter's like getting into the Saw box office lore in this.
I'm pretty sure because Melton just yelled it at them and they had to print it. It was the first one that really resonated with a lot of critics because it was about healthcare. The production was really easy though, even though the Saw movies were made every year, which is hard to do. Mark Berg, a longtime producer of the Saw franchise that launched with the 2004 original, points out the THR that he oversaw not only Saw 6, but 2002 similarly themed John Q. Mark Berg is taking credit for the murder of Brian Thompson? Is that what's happening? Luigi. Free Luigi and put Mark Berg in prison. He really is eager to take credit for this. Jigsaw goes after somebody who won't provide insurance for him, so I guess I'm 2 for 2. He truly has said this in an interview. So strange.
I don't even know what I saw that. I didn't know what 2 for 2 meant in that case. Like
yeah, 2 out of 2 of your movies are about that, but did you only make 2 movies? What the fuck are you talking about? Anyway, this is a crazy fact. Also, the writer Patrick Melton actually went to college with slain United's healthcare CEO Brian Thompson at the University of Iowa. They were there at the same time. They graduated the same year. I can tell you Brian was pretty normal at school. He drank Bud Light and was a good guy. What a sentence. We're not going to dive any more into that. But Bloody Disgusting similarly says, it's totally dead. It's 100% over. For almost a year now it's been this way. Everything went sideways in January 2024. The producers started fighting. One producer attempted to plow forward. The other put up roadblocks, stifling the production. Lionsgate doesn't have anyone involved to like smooth over the disagreement, probably because they're having the worst time of their in their storied history in terms of like putting out movies every week and making zero money from any of them. So I would have guessed that was the issue, that like Lionsgate doesn't have money to like make this. Yeah. I think the writing on the wall is, if it's truly this dire for Lionsgate, and it sounds like it is, are they just going to sell this off and make like a huge, like how like when a band sells off their catalog and makes a bunch of money? Like, is Lionsgate about to sell off Saw and just like make a cool billion or whatever they're going to make on it to let like Blumhouse ruin it? What do you think?
I wondered about that too. Like, is it, it doesn't seem like, I feel like no one ever wants to let that stuff go in this day and age, like people are desperate to then claw the rights back when they, but
maybe they're just like going to hold tight until they have money or something.
Right. It doesn't seem like it would be a big, like a big, like they would be such an urgent thing that they would have to sell it all. I mean, I know they're strapped for cash, but at the same time, I don't know. I honestly don't know how much the Saw rights would fetch. Right? Like, I'm sure they would do fine, but they're not exactly Spider-Man.
How much you got on you right now? The new Flash is going to put in a bid.
Can we pool the money? Yeah.
If we put the Patreon bid in, we could offer a few $1,000s after a few years of Patreon. So. Maybe that is enticing to anybody over at Lionsgate.
We should do this, all the imperiled IP. We should just continually buy them up, and then you got a movie studio. That's Ketchup Entertainment, baby. We we could be the new Ketchup Entertainment. New Flesh Productions.
Mayo, New Flesh Productions is better. You're right. After 7 installments, a soft reboot, a spin-off, and an in-between sequel, the Saw franchise might be done. That would be really a bummer. At the same time, X was like a high note. So like,
yes.
there's that part to it.
I know people do sort of. People are. I mean, like I like the Saw movies, and I'm always happy to see a new one. And frankly, what I like about the Saw movies is that you can still make this date. They're not going to obviously
still make the date.
They could honestly, they could iron this all out, start filming in July, and get it out for September or October 2025. That's the Saw way. But assuming it is dormant for at least a couple more years. It is. People are sort of stretching it a little. I think some of the fans I was seeing online are stretching it a little, or even some of the filmmakers talking about how like there was all this like stuff left undone from like they're increasingly wedging Saw movies into a smaller and smaller space. Like there's not actually that much. John Kramer died many movies ago. Like there's not. How much more is there really left? I know they did tease the return of who's that guy? I forget his name. He's the one who like looks kind of like the detective puppet from Happy Time Murders was turned into a human and then back into a puppet and then back into a human.
Are you talking about Costas Mandylor?
Yes, that's him. Costas Mandylor. I know they
that was a good one.
Thank you. I wrote that last night. I'm not going to lie.
You anticipated this topic coming up.
Yeah, exactly. I know they teased his return, but like his character is also dead. It's just kind of goofy to pretend like, oh, it was cut off in its prime. Yes, there was a very good Saw sequel, one of the best ones recently, but it's not like the story really demands more and more. I mean, Saw 10 actually is a nice little finale if that's where it comes to. But I of course would also like to see more. I would be kind of bummed if they took 10 movies worth of continuity and then just ended up rebooting it and doing like Saw like whatever, not the Next Generation because that would still be in the same continuity, but like Saw 0 or whatever. That would be lame.
Yeah, it would be. Here's hoping they figure this out, especially soon enough to get it out by the date. The other biggest news of the week is that it was reported that CUJO is headed back to the small screen, I guess, because Netflix is doing a new adaptation of CUJO, a movie, not a TV show, notably. And the Hollywood Reporter confirmed a scoop from Jeff Snyder, if you can believe it, that Oscar-nominated filmmaker Darren Aronofsky of Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan, Mother, and most recently the scariest one of all, The Whale.
Yes,
is in talk. Yeah, Aronofsky's in talks to direct CUJO for Netflix. The feature project was only revealed last week, but it's clearly further along than known and moving on the fast track, is what THR says. Roy Lee, the guy who produced It, and I think also Barbarian and Companion, is producing this new adaptation. He's definitely like a horror phenom producer, and I think he listens to the show because he follows me and has for years. And I've never, taken advantage of that fact. But if you're listening, let me know, Roy. I have scripts in my drawer that you can have, and we can make this thing happen. Anyway, Darren Aronofsky, CUJO. What do you think? I'm sure your take is cool that there's a new Aronofsky, but why this?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah. I've actually never seen CUJO or read CUJO. So now I have to decide whether to go in cold if there is indeed, if there ends up being one. I feel a little, pacified because there is a new Aronofsky movie coming out this summer, supposedly. So if his next one is going to be a horror remake, that's fine, I guess. I admit I was more, I feel like the last time Aronofsky was really flirting with, this kind of mainstreamy thing, he was like talked about for doing the Wolverine, like the second Wolverine movie that Mangold ended up doing before Logan. And I remember being really bummed that he didn't do that because I was like, oh, I could really see that being really cool. CUJO, I'm less invested in whether or not he does that. I don't know. Is the original CUJO good? I've never seen it.
Sorry, I was typing something. Yes, the original CUJO is good. It's directed by Louis Teague, but it's shot by Jan de Bont.
Ooh,
and
okay.
It's cool. It's got that cool mystique to it. It looks good. It's also like a single location, like trapped in a car movie most of the time.
Oh,
like it's very. It's probably not what you think it is if you don't know anything about CUJO. So I think it's worth watching.
Okay.
And it's a good book. So yeah, I think it. A rabid Saint Bernard is ripe for the silver screen.
And
I think the first movie's. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, is Brendan Fraser tipped to play the Saint Bernard?
He's gonna do prosthetics really intensely.
He
to
needs
be the
that
dog.
second Oscar. Yes.
CUJO for Netflix. Darren Aronofsky. I'm open to it. It just seems
More
like
the
a weird
Netflix
thing
part
for him
that
to
sucks.
do.
Actually, right?
It is the
Like-
Netflix part that sucks. It's gonna look like it's gonna have the Netflix sheen. It's not gonna look like a Darren Aronofsky. That's what you don't hope for, but that's what I expect at this point. Stephen King recently returned to the world of CUJO for a short story sequel titled Rattlesnakes. It was in You Like It Darker, which I actually have been meaning to read. It's on my shelf. So CUJO, that's big news. Another bit of big news this week. Columbia Pictures has hired Neil Blomkamp to write and direct a new Starship Troopers movie, which will readapt Robert Heinlein's novel rather than outright remake Verhoeven's movie. Although Verhoeven's movie was also an adaptation of that novel, but I think I've never read the novel. I don't know if the satire is in the novel.
No, from what
But
I understand, Verhoeven
not,
did not
right,
finish reading. You haven't read the novel. I haven't read the novel, and neither has Paul Verhoeven. I think I read that he chucked it. He stopped reading it before it was finished. Before he finished it,
He said, nobody's
and-
fucking in this. I'm done.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I do I'm bullshitting a little bit because I haven't read the novel, but from what I understand, Verhoeven's kind of making fun of the novel in his movie.
Yes.
I love that movie. That's one of my
It's a
very
5-star
favorite
great
films.
movie.
It
I
is
love
a 5-star film. I saw that movie twice the night it came out.
Twice the night it came out.
Yes.
And were you smart enough to perceive it as satire immediately, like most people? I feel like it
what's
has this
great-
weird thing on Twitter where like once a year the dumbest person you've ever heard is like, "Yeah, next you're gonna tell me Starship Troopers is satirical or something."
Yeah, right.
What do you mean? Yeah.
I mean, I was 17, and I think what's awesome about that movie is that it sort of plays well either way. I mean, I obviously got that they were like having Nazi imagery towards the end of the movie, but I like the kind of soap opera-y dopiness of the actors. I probably thought I was sort of laughing at and not really realizing that how intentional that was. But the great thing about that movie is that it fucking owns regardless. I mean, like, that's kind of what's seductive and weird about that movie is that it is kind of satirizing a descent into fascism, but at the same time, like, just the sheer spectacle of the bug versus human battles is incredible. And those effects are so good. They still look pretty good. So last time I watched it, I was like, the computer bugs still look terrific. So it's and then as I've watched it more times, I sort of understood more. Oh, this is entirely, taking the piss. But I actually had a film prof in college who was very big on like Verhoeven is both sincere and satirical at the same time in this and in Showgirls, who was very big on like you are kind of supposed to care about the characters, which I don't necessarily agree that I care about the characters, but I think he's right that it kind of plays both ways in a kind of subversive way. Anyway, I just think it's a fucking great movie. So I've always sort of rolled my eyes at the idea of someone doing a new one, even though I know as someone who sometimes has liked books that got made into movies that I didn't like very much, and then they did another crack at the book. I was always kind of like, well, good, that maybe they'll do something that's more compatible with the book. So I get the idea that this isn't a remake of the Verhoeven. They're just going to adapt this novel again. That's fine. But there's always a part of me that's going to resist it, especially with Blomkamp, whose track record of late is not sterling, let's say. I don't even... What was the last one he did? The Gran
weird
Turismo movie.
Wasn't
Yeah.
it like... I forgot about that. I was going to say Demonic, which was like COVID-era shitty horror movie that...
Yes,
quite bad.
The racing movie at least was like a normal movie. It wasn't very good, but it was like the Demonic was really, really bad. So yeah, I don't like also knowing his dumb ideas for how he wanted to do a sequel to Aliens that like ignores other Alien movies because he's one of those fans who like can't stand it that they did something he didn't like in Alien 3. That always has sort of honestly that soured me on him before he even made Chappie. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. I'm sure I'll see this movie.
Am I getting word that Jesse doesn't love Chappie? It works better when you say Jesse love Chappie. It doesn't
Jesse
work
love
as
Chappie?
good when you say Jesse no love Chappie. But that's what I was trying to do there.
I understand. I mean, I have some affection for Chappie, but
Joe and I did a live streamed commentary of that in like
Oh,
the first
wow.
year of the podcast, and for some reason the Slipknot guy retweeted it, so we had a ton of people show up
Whoa.
all of a sudden, and we were just in my living room like, why are there 1,000 people watching us watch Chappie right now? This is so
Wow.
weird. That was the heyday of the New Flesh podcast. Anyway, Neil Blomkamp doing a like straightforward version of Starship Troopers, like that movie I just don't think that movie hits the same way if it doesn't have that satirical bent to it. Like, I mean,
Right.
they've done several straight-to-video sequels that I think some do and some don't, maybe, but like turning it into just a straight sci-fi actioner feels like a mistake.
Well, and I feel like what Verhoeven was reacting to in that movie, and again, I haven't read the book, so I'm kind of bullshitting a little bit, but I think what he was reacting to is he felt the book itself was fascist. So it's so very fanboy culture of like really it feels like almost retrograde now of like 2010s or so to be like, we're gonna do it right this time, but like it turns out what we're gonna do it right this time means making the fascist version. That's I mean, I guess that's
Blomkamp
very
saw
apropos.
Trump win
That's-
and saw his opening, and he took
Yeah,
it.
that's right. Jigsaw can no longer advocate for the public option, and Starship Troopers will be legitimately fascist again. The new regime is here. Yeah,
Elections
I mean,
have consequences.
yes. I agree. Like again, I'm missing a sci-fi classic in a book that I haven't read, but it just like having known so well this perfect crazy balancing act that Verhoeven pulls off in the earlier film. It's hard to understand why you would want. I mean, especially because that movie wasn't a big. I guess that's what they always say. Like remake the movies that weren't big successes, and Starship Troopers certainly was not a big
No,
financial success.
but it has so many. You know how many times I've bought that movie over and over again? Like I bought it on DVD. I think I've definitely bought it on Blu-ray. I upgraded to 4K, so they're probably raking it in on the cult status.
That's
this
true.
point.
It was the
Yeah.
first DVD I ever bought, actually.
That's so funny.
And it's also the only, I think maybe the only steelbook that I own is I bought the 4K fairly recently because it's got a cool cover.
Nice.
And also
Hell
because
yeah.
it's one of my favorite movies. So yeah, not that interested in Blomkamp's take, but hey, who knows?
Speaking of new takes on classics, the Toxic Avenger. We're finally getting like the full court press of press about it. August 29th is the release date. It's going wide. It's fully unrated. I feel like it's going out in like a Fathom-esque fashion versus a real fashion.
It's gonna screen like twice in a weekend or something.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. It's like the Terrifier people, so maybe they're just going to get a wider release now that they like know what they're doing. But Macon Blair says, the new design. Basically, the design was revealed in Entertainment Weekly this week. You can see Peter Dinklage in makeup as Toxic Avenger. And if you want to see that, you can go ahead and Google it. The goal was to try to stay true to the vibe of Kaufman's original creature with some influence from a Toxic Crusaders cartoon look, while also trying to do something new and weird and lovable. I love what Millennium Effects did with it. Part human, part mutant, all heart. Macon Blair directed. Peter Dinklage stars. Kevin Bacon, Elijah Wood, Jacob Tremblay, Taylor Page also in it. I love Toxic Avenger. It's the only trauma movie that's worth watching, in my opinion, probably. It definitely was like a movie I saw early and started my love of genre stuff, so I have a soft spot for it, and I hope that this is good. But I don't know. I'm just glad it's coming out, because it looked like it was maybe not going to come out. Single White Female is getting a modern-day reboot, and there's easy jokes to be made, because it's gonna star Jenna Ortega and Taylor Russell. And I think the joke is you had one job, but I'm assuming it's like race swapped or something. It's like doing something new and racy. What have you?
Well, and they also that's who they want too is Jenna Ortega. I don't believe Ortega said yes to it. I was like,
see.
We all want Jenna Ortega for our projects.
Yes, they're both in talks.
Yeah.
The original 90s movie, I didn't realize, spawned a direct-to-video sequel in 2005 called Single White Female 2, The Psycho. And it was based on John Lutz's 1990 novel, Seeking White Female Seeks Same. That movie was notably featured on Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments, landing at number 56. I don't think a haircut has ever been so terrifying. We all remember that.
The haircut? I do remember this movie very clearly because it was probably the most sexually explicit movie I had ever seen when I saw it on HBO when I was 12. And I remember the haircut's bad. Like, she gets a bad haircut. I don't remember it being that scary.
Isn't it that her roommate like cuts it while she's sleeping or something?
Maybe. I don't know. I remember. I like the stuff I remember from that movie is like Steven Weber gets a stiletto to the face, and that's very vivid to me.
Very memorable. I haven't seen it in years. I also saw it on HBO. But yeah, modern day reboot of Single White Female, 2 non-white leads they're looking for. So there's something interesting there, or the title's going to change because you can't call it Single White Female, or maybe it's about somebody else and they're just the 2 co-leads. I don't know. Anyway, Hell House LLC Lineage. There's a new one. I think this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is this the 6th? No, the 5th installment of the Hell House movies. I think they dropped the found footage aesthetic for this one. So that's what's new about Lineage. People tell me these are good. I haven't watched them. I'm eager to watch them. And I will at some point. Phoebe Dynevor was added to the, like, Jake Gyllenhaal, M. Night Shyamalan, Nicholas Sparks thing, whatever that is. And she's also going to be in a Joseph Gordon-Levitt movie that's produced by Darren Aronofsky called Pendulum. So Phoebe Dynavor's busy is the news. IFC Films and Shudder have acquired the rights to a movie called Forbidden Fruits, which stars Lily Reinhardt and is produced by Diablo Cody. So it sounds like something that Jesse's interested in, and
yes,
other people who listen to the show will be interested in. Silent Hill F, the first Silent Hill game in many, many years, was just announced. It's coming out on all the next-gen consoles and Steam and whatnot. If you're a horror fan, I'm sure you're into Silent Hill, so that's very exciting. It's supposed to be even like more Japanese influence than the other games. They like went back to that aesthetic and leaned into it, and I'm looking forward to playing that game. The trailer dropped for the full trailer for The Shrouds, the new David Cronenberg movie, which I saw at a film festival last year. Did you see it at the festival? Or did you...
I actually didn't. I haven't seen it yet. I've only even ever
Nice.
seen the short teaser. I haven't even seen the full trailer.
I do have a link, but it's expiring soon because I'm supposed
Oh, that's
to do
okay.
the interview.
I'm gonna try to see it for real. All right, is the interview happening? Is it gonna happen?
They have checked like for my availability and or how much time and stuff, but they haven't.
Wow.
Confirmed. But there is press days, and I'm gonna follow up and be like, hey, what's up? But I'm looking forward to that. I hope that happens. The David Cronenberg movie, The Shrouds, opens April 18th in New York and LA, and April 25th wide. It's for the real David Cronenberg heads, I will say. Terrifier 3 has got a making of documentary that's now streaming exclusively on Streambox, if you're into that. And it's the 25th anniversary of Final Destination, and Jesse wrote something for somebody. You can pitch that. I just wanted to mention that movie is 25, and we love it. And we interviewed the creator on this show 5 or 6 years ago, and those episodes are all available. We have never paywalled anything. You can always go back and listen to old episodes. We did the whole Final Destination franchise, including that really good one on the first movie with like the origin, learned about the origins of the thing as a X-Files script and shit like that. And it was a lot of fun. But Jesse, tell me about what you wrote.
Oh, I just wrote a little retrospective piece for Paste Magazine. I've been doing a monthly series where I go back 25 years and talk about an important or not important movie from 2000 this year. So far the lineup: January, Down to You; February, The Beach; and March, the only choice was Final Destination. So I did write, I mentioned I should have listened to the old New Flesh episode, which I've never heard. I didn't know until I was reading about it for this piece that it was originally an X-Files episode. Or it was original X-Files spec script that somehow bounced back to the X-Files guys, and they made it as a movie.
It's so cool when you realize that like Jeffrey Reddick was just like an intern over at whatever studio, New Line or whatever.
Yeah.
Just kind of hit it big with this cool concept that he had.
Yeah, it's so cool. And watching it again, I was like, yeah, this movie is it's solid, and I feel like it's a little more. What I wrote about a little bit for Pace is that it feels a little more pervasively sort of paranoid and kind of, I don't know, there's something about it that's a little more, I think a little more, I wouldn't say emotionally involving, but a little more like visceral than some of the other ones, even though the other ones are much gorier in terms of viscera. The kind of visceral feeling of it, the kind of paranoia about death lurking and seeing these signs and stuff, I think is probably strongest in that first movie. But I'm going to rewatch the other ones because I haven't seen any of them a second time, so I'm going to rewatch them all on the way to the 6th one coming in May, so I'm pretty excited. They're all on HBO Max if you have that service.
Yeah, that's awesome. The new movie's out in May, and I'm so excited. Couldn't be more excited for a movie than I am for Final Destination Bloodlines or whatever it's called. All right, let's talk about Opus that features the music of Moretti, John Malkovich. I'm assuming Moretti is supposed to like signal that he's like a Morrissey type, and that's like they're like you'll get it. It's more like Morrissey. Yeah. Well, I know because I feel like that's the main thing you're going to be is baffled. So they go, if we call him Moretti, at least they go, okay, I get what they're going for, Morrissey, but like. It's a stretch, I think.
It's many stretches. In his presentation, this pop star in this movie, which is about, it's basically the menu but pop music instead of food, I guess, right? Like people are summoned to a remote location to hear for a listening party. Journalists are going to this remote location for a listening party to hear the new album by the legendary Moretti, who is played by the legendary, for very different reasons, John Malkovich. Because when you think legendary reclusive pop star on the order of Prince and David Bowie, who I think that's who they're really evoking in terms of his fashion, in terms of the style of the music, it's like 80s Bowie and Prince mixed in there. You of course go to John Malkovich for that. Noted singer and sex symbol.
Osborne Cox, who's writing his memoir.
Yeah, compared to you, we're all alcoholics. I love Malkovich. Obviously, he's amazing, but the first stumbling block. I mean, it's not the first stumbling block because he doesn't turn up until later in the movie. But boy, does this feel weirdly off key in terms of him being this like beloved on the level of David Bowie or Prince pop star. I mean, you just have to go with it.
Accept it. I didn't have a problem with that, really.
Movie, but I just at the same time, and I think they also have the problem where they have to play a couple of his songs.
Yeah, but it's produced by Niles Rodgers of Chic and The Dream. I actually didn't think the music was like bad. I thought it was like fine. Yeah.
I thought it was like all right, I guess. I just feel like they biffed it, like in terms of
movie music has that problem where especially if it's supposed to be like the best thing ever, like it better be good, and it never is. Except for
it's
that Tom Hanks movie.
It's exactly. Like it's hard to get something like that thing you do where at least that's an instantly catchy song where you can understand why it's supposed to be a hit in the world of the movie, and this. You have these characters sort of fawning over the music, and obviously I know you can read fine with the music not being good because maybe they're just fawning over it because he's a huge celebrity and they're very flattered to be invited to his compound. But at the same time, I just found it kind of like a lot of stuff about this movie. It kind of yanked me out of whatever I was supposed to be doing, and I started thinking of these other things. Like, wait, who is he supposed to be, and what 65-year-old man would be like that big of a deal that people would be so excited that and that it covers this whole age range of like sort of this like millennial or Gen Xer editor, but also Edebiri, who's like 25, is also like in his thrall. I just feel like who would be that person that's supposed to appeal to like 40 years worth of journalists? That's a minor point, but it is kind of indicative, I think, of what's weird about this movie. Is that it kind of constantly yanks you out of whatever it's doing to distract you with something else. I don't know. I just felt like I found the movie very compelling. Like I was never bored during it. But I think it's a very strange movie that doesn't work.
It hit a point. Well, it hit a point for me where I'm just like, does A24 have like a template script for like they're going to be a horror third act movies? It started to feel like Midsommar at a certain point, even with the same visual cues. And I was like, what is this?
There's overhead shots. It doesn't have the upside down overhead shots of Midsommar, but it does have those weird overhead shots. And a lot of the stuff it does visually, I found... I don't know, much less. It's hard to describe. I kept feeling like, oh, that's an interesting visual trick on its own, but the way it was just inserted into the scene feels very bizarre and kind of at odd angles. And yeah, you hate to ascribe things to a studio, because I know people get annoyed when they're like, oh, A24 has this thing that they do, because like that encompasses so many different filmmakers, but.
Well, like Marvel,
in terms of the genre movies,
Marvel, they have like a house style now. I think. I don't know if that's what you were going to say. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's sort of what I'm getting at. And I think much more than Marvel. There's tons of A24 movies that are just kind of their own thing. Like, I don't think the Iron Claw particularly looks like Baby Girl, which I don't even like very much, but I don't think it looks particularly like. We Live in Time, which doesn't look particularly like Heretic, etc., etc. But I think for some of their genre stuff, there's definitely a type of story that I think the A24 people go, ooh, that sounds like us, and then sort of gravitate toward. It's almost a reverse. It's almost like I feel like they gravitate towards certain types of stories that they kind of feel like is on brand for them in a way that's probably not that helpful creatively. Like like the Menu, which I think this is probably closest to structurally and tonally, isn't even an A24 picture. That's like a Fox Searchlight movie, but It's like they're that type of story. They seem to, A24 and Neon seem to go, ooh, we like this kind of horror movie. And I like that they're interested in kind of, different ways into horror, Like, it doesn't have to be supernatural. It doesn't have to be slasher or whatever. Like, I think there's some genuinely horrific imagery in this movie, and it's kind of creepy. And the kind of cult idea is an interesting one. But there is something that just feels pervasively off about it, and not in a creepy way, just in a, this just doesn't tonally, it wasn't hitting right for me, and I couldn't exactly say why, because I like a lot of the people in it and enjoyed a lot of individual scenes, and certainly love the idea of the pop music world being a conduit for like this horrible cult. That's, I think, is a really interesting idea.
Pop fandom as a cult, where like people are willing to debase themselves to be in the presence of these godlike figures, is really a great idea. I agree.
But like, yeah, the movie doesn't, for all that, the movie doesn't seem that interested in the pop fandom side of things. It seems to want you to think that this guy is a big deal, but it doesn't really tap into, I mean, again, this is maybe I'm dinging the movie for what it's not doing or what it's not trying to do, but it really doesn't tap into the kind of fanaticism that you see with at around artists like, Taylor Swift or Beyonce or whoever, Nicki Minaj, whoever, who like have these like armies of people who are kind of ride or die for them. And I get that these are journalist characters, so they're not going to be the people who are they're going to be more subtly ride or die for the pop music people. But then it kind of muddles the point, doesn't it? Like, it's like, yeah, fame is a cult or whatever, but like this cult is like, it's a lot of people, but it's not like as scary to me. I mean, it's scarier because people, there's nefarious things afoot, but it's not the mass level of like Taylor Swift commanding an army of 25 or 30,000 people who will like dox someone if they say something bad about, you know what I mean? Like that's not what the movie's not really about. But like, I wasn't sure what it's about instead.
No, it's not about anything. Well, you know what it's about, and like this is a spoiler, and I didn't talk about it on Roger Me, but I really wanted to, so I'm just gonna get right to it. Like,
yes.
I think on paper, I love the reveal of like what he's doing, because it's like something that like appeals to me as. What he's doing is, it's essentially, think of it as a Saw movie where he's Jigsaw and he's put all the people in the traps are like critics who've wronged him.
Right.
And he's like an artist who just hates critics, and that's what this is all about. And that on its face is fun to me, but not as the reveal for this movie. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like,
yeah. It totally makes sense, because it doesn't really fit in with the cult business, which is that, when they go to this compound to do this listening party, they kind of find, oh, there's like a whole cult of people who's not just his support staff, people who are like genuinely engaging in some kind of weird rituals at his behest. And what happens with those people, I mean, they're just supposed to be the collateral damage, I guess. But no, I mean, no, that's not right. That's not what I'm thinking. I'm getting confused about what actually happens. But that idea, how the movie ends is as a kind of an interesting, provocative idea, but it almost feels like it should be taking place 15 years earlier than it does. Like, the movie ends, if we're going to get it, I mean, no one's...
Well, Mark said he thinks this movie ends where it should start.
Yeah, it kind of does. I think that's a good... Yeah, that's at least... Or it ends where it should be in the middle, or should have a third act after this, or something.
But at the same time, this movie is one of those things where like it ends and then ends again, and that second ending is It feels like it's the longest 10 minutes of my life.
Yes,
it was like
it does.
Just
it
the
does
horrible exposition where they're like, "So Moretti, here's been your last 10 years. I'm going to tell you what you did because this is how people talk."
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ, this is terrible.
And the idea that, and this is going to be a spoiler, but I feel like people, if you wanted to see this movie, you probably ran out and saw it. And if you like the numbers do not bear out that a lot of people were interested. I'm sure our listenership for this episode we were joking before that if we should just do a Snow White episode because more people would probably listen. Ooh, what?
Yeah, we saw it early. Like we could put it out today.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. People would be really excited. This is what but we're too dedicated to the horror lifestyle, so we're going to talk about the movie that made $1 million last weekend. Yeah, but we are going to spoil it. So, like, it all winds up that after all this, kind of crazy stuff is going on, these kind of interestingly horrific, ironic comeuppance deaths for some of these.
Oh, the girl whose like face explodes or gets her tongue. It's surprisingly nasty. That and the rat puppet show was also scary.
That whole sequence.
It has
is
a couple
very
moments.
Creepy. Yeah, no, I wasn't like I was like 2.5 stars on this movie ultimately, which is pretty good for something that's this muddled. But then the kind of really creepy thing that they end on is Edebiri, having written a book about this experience with this cult and this having escaped, and Moretti is arrested for killing the people who died, but like his cult has vanished and it's presumed that all these 100 people, whatever it was, drank the Kool-Aid, so to speak, and wound up dead, but the bodies have not been found. And then he reveals to her when she visits him in prison that or I don't even know if he specifically says this to her, but I think she's able to discern this, and you see this on screen. The cult members did not die. They've been all fanned out into the real world, where they now live among us, and like, but like, there's a little bit of like,
Watto,
to do what exactly?
Who did not die?
Yeah. Oh man. Praise be that Watto lives to this day. Maybe he's still living among us. Yeah. So like, they're okay. The cult members living among us. That's a very creepy montage they do, where they show these people who are still very dedicated to Moretti's creepy leadership in like normal jobs, like kind of hiding in plain sight. But like, does that make sense? Is that chilling for 2025 at the same time? Like, shouldn't that be happening in 2010? And then those are the people online who will dox people, who dox critics or whatever over a bad review. Like, it just kind of, I think that's what Mark is onto when he says that ends where it should begin, or at least should keep going from that point, is where you're like, oh, so what you're saying is crazy cultish fans live among us? Wow. I've actually been made aware of this.
I'm on Twitter,
earlier.
dude.
Yeah, exactly. I once made light fun of Taylor Swift, so like, I'm aware. The meanest things I've ever heard said about me, eclipsing when I wrote positive things about the Star Wars prequels, is when I made a mild joke at Taylor Swift's expense. Just the fucking meanest shit I've ever heard. It was impressive, really. So like, there is a creepy ending, but like, okay, so is this dispatch coming to us fresh from 2011, 2012, from like 2009, like that fans look just like you and me, and they will do crazy things, and it falls. It's both a creepy image and also falls a little flat. Like, this whole movie is just to say, oh yeah, fans look like regular people. Yeah, they do. They mostly have regular lives, but also are, will say crazy shit on the internet or whatever. So it just like, yeah, it doesn't really land in a big way. I just found the whole thing weird. Like, it just consistently misses the mark, I found, like, in a way that's kind of interesting. Like, it's kept me with it. I was never like completely checked out of the movie, but I kind of felt like every turn.
final scene, I was like, oh my god, it just would never end.
It does go on a long time.
Talking to him in jail, yeah.
Yeah, and it's very awkwardly. You're kind of like, why is she going to see him now? He summons her there, and he keeps calling her book a novel, and then she corrects him at one point, but other people have called it a novel. It's one of those things where you can kind of do that uncanny, Charlie Kaufman, Ari Aster kind of like, oh, there's weird inconsistencies that are uncommented upon but are clearly intentional. But the movie doesn't do that very well. So I honestly was confused for like a long stretch of the ending sequence, whether or not she had written a novel or a nonfiction book. And also, the movie seems to think that would like set her up for life. That would like make her the toast of the town, instead of it just being kind of a cash-in memoir. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't kind of buy, oh, now she's got the world in the palm of her hand because she wrote this one book that probably sold, 15,000 copies or something. I just like, everything about it felt like just a little bit off enough for me to go, wait, what? Does that make sense? It was weird. It's the guy who wrote and directed it was a GQ writer and editor. So I should,
so you're next in line.
Yeah, it's next. It's me next. He's gonna call. I don't know this guy. Obviously, I've only written for the GQ website. I don't know the dude who made this. Even my editor, I don't think knows him very well. But I feel like certain things about it he does really nail. The sort of the early on Edebiri's character is kind of writer mentality of like, I thought that I could interview famous people and people would sort of know my opinions about things and that would make them want to know what I think about things. You know what I mean? Like that what she describes as sort of fantasy of, I'll interview celebrities, but the interviews will be so interesting that people will be interested in what I have to say also. That nails it. That's really good stuff.
I love that too, and I love all the stuff at the beginning with her boyfriend being like, you don't have experience, so why would anyone want to read you? You need to have experience and perspective, or else you're just like a writer. And the movie gives her that experience, blah, 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 blah. But like, I like that setup more than I like the execution and the ending. And where it ends for her,
right. Where it goes is not. It doesn't really indict her that much. It kind of tries to by saying, "Oh, look, she wrote this best-selling book about it," but it doesn't really get into that stuff that deeply once she reaches this compound. I did like that she uses my preferred brand of pen. That rang very true to me. I agree. The Uniball Vision Elite is the best pen to use, so I was very much on her side. Using the correct
my problem that they didn't get to the critic stuff until the reveal, because like to me, it's more interesting to be a movie about a celebrity. Like there are celebrities who like they don't build statues of critics type of celebrity who like is online and sicking their armies on people who say bad things. So like I just was like, I don't know. You feel like they missed the forest for the trees in terms of like just it being, it's about cult fandom, and also it's about how celebrities are little babies who can't take criticism. It just, I feel like it was like peppering idea. It's just like, gesturing at ideas, bringing them up, and kind of moving on to the next one without actually
it kind of
like
feels,
following through.
It feels when he does bring in the kind of petty reasons he actually called those people there, it feels kind of reductive. Like, I do believe, of course, as you say, there are celebrities who like really sticks in their craw. I feel like if I were a celebrity, if I got famous now, I probably would be like that too. I would.
Kumail Nanjiani has my face on a dartboard somewhere because we fought about the length of the Big Sick on Twitter.
I believe I've name searched, and I'm just a nobody writer, so like I get why people name search, especially if you came to. Not that I'm a big success, but like if someone came to a big amount of fame later in life, I could see, of course, you not breaking the habit of name searching and kind of looking for attention or whatever. So I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but like the idea of a David Bowie or a Prince figure who's that petty, and like I think they do. The people, probably some artists do hold that kind of pettiness in their hearts, but this wasn't even that satisfying in terms of as an expression of pettiness. It was like, it was just like, it wasn't even a collection of critics or anything. It was like a collection of like, this one paparazzi took an unflattering photo and this other person said something in passing. I get that often those feelings are petty, but it's kind of underwhelming to the viewer.
If that's the part of the joke, which I think it is, like, okay, but it doesn't
a long way to go, right? For that joke. For like,
exactly.
That the one thing we all have in common that they never picked up on is we all wrote something unflattering about him. It's like probably hundreds of people. Why these 5 or what? It's just like it kind of falls apart the more you kind of pick at it, because it's not. It doesn't really feel that well developed in a way, which is weird because it's from a writer, so you someone who probably thinks about this stuff a lot, and I think that those early scenes do indicate a lot of thought. But where it actually goes, even though, I do like a lot of the horror stuff. I think a lot of individual scenes were suspenseful. Edebiri's character having to run and hide in the little museum dedicated to his childhood home stuff. Like I was like suspenseful, like scene by scene. I never really drifted off from it, but it doesn't really fit together very well. No. It just never really, some of it's sort of like satirizing the rich with their handlers and providing them with beautiful outfits and demanding that they all trim their pubic hair or whatever. But then it goes off in several different directions that I just found kind of diffuse. I was kind of fascinated by it. It's definitely a more interesting bad movie than a lot of bad movies we see. Maybe that's the A24 difference, is that it's not like The Front Room or something where it's like they must have thought this would work on paper, but it really doesn't in practice. But it still doesn't work. It just isn't quite as embarrassing as something like that.
Yeah, I think the problem is that, as you said, it's just like tired stuff we've seen before, talking about like celebrity worship is like being in a cult, and all that stuff, and the fact that it ends with just like it doesn't help that it ends on so limply. I feel like where it's just like it stops cold to explain everything to you, which like people made fun of Psycho when it did it in 1960. Like we don't need a movie to do that.
Yeah, I feel like exactly. They don't figure out, like, they do is it a 5-year time jump or 2 years? It's like a multiple year time jump.
I forget it. Maybe even just a year, but maybe it's more. I don't know.
I feel like it's more because like a book wouldn't have had time to come out. Not that the movies don't fudge that kind of thing, but like it's like disorienting, and especially when you're you have to jump that far forward just to get to your big scare at the end, which is they're all around us. Like it's very unwieldy, and that's true of a lot of the movie. It just kind of moves in this very lurching, bizarre way. It's just it's a strange one.
Yeah, and you saying he's a music writer makes me that much more interested in it and like the ideas that he has. But you're right, it just doesn't really come off.
Right, I love that. Like it's kind of esoteric because like it's something I don't even have experience with, and I'm not a journalist, but like a writer, like the listening party thing. I remember hearing about like you go to the Radiohead listening party, or they would send you CD player, portable CD players with the CD super glued in there, so you can't take it out and rip it or listen to it anywhere else but on the CD player they send you. Or you come into a room to listen to a Kanye thing. I mean, I'm sure this guy went to some kind of weird Kanye West thing. I feel like maybe he even said that inspired some of this, like where you have to go to a location to listen to the album. You can't just listen to it on they can't just send you the MP3s like they do with like a Weezer album or something. So yeah, he clearly does have the experience and the kind of thoughtfulness to do a movie about this that could be scary or provocative or whatever, but this one just feels pervasively off throughout. And for me, some of that was also just like not buying Malkovich. I'm not buying him as a cult leader. I don't just necessarily buy him as a sexy singer and dancer.
Yeah, it's a tough sell in a lot of ways, but you're right. It does work on a scene-to-scene basis a lot of the time. And that rat, the puppet show where the critics are depicted as rats, and they're like actually like dead rats, and they're puppets, and it's really gross and weird. Yes. That is like out of a much better movie, and it's it doesn't feel like it's in
some weird uncanny imagery. The person in the beanbag, the like who comes out and then has the swollen face, and like the guy getting suddenly shot with an arrow and sort of being encouraged to sort of shrug it off. Then also like it stretches belief that this guy would get shot in the shoulder with an arrow and be like, it's cool. But there's some really creepy, uncanny imagery. Even her like running through his museum and running into like there's like a jump scare out of like a statue of him, which is kind of fun and cool. Right. But like, it doesn't fit together very well.
It's a bummer. I'm rooting for Edebiri, New York comedy scene person. Anyone who's done my comedy show, I'm rooting for. So she had the quickest ascent from doing the comedy show to being in everything.
Being the lead of 6 movies a year.
Truly insane.
And she's not bad in this movie. I feel like she does the job of like she's the point of view character who that never really wavers. You understand her plight and sort of her weaknesses and following her through it. And she's, to the credit of her performance and the writing of the movie, she is like very firmly like, I want to leave at the point where a normal person would do that, A lot of times these movies, you're like, why are they sticking around? And she's, she has such a like kind of reasonable, countenance, so that when she's like, I need to leave, you're like, yeah, that's a good idea. But so, it's just, it's a bummer that her kind of Scream Queen movie is this sort of uncertain, unsure thing.
Yeah, and that pivot to horror does feel just like obligatory. It's just like, yep, you're watching the A24 horror movie, so
right.
Here comes some weird stuff.
I know, wouldn't it be kind of cool to like actually just see one of those things play out? I mean, I love this is a counterintuitive thing to say in a horror podcast. I love horror, obviously. But at this point, when you're summoned to a mysterious location by a rich celebrity, wouldn't now you kind of just want to see it play out in terms of human drama and not people getting killed in weird ways? I usually want to see people killed in weird ways, but now I feel like I'm kind of sick of it and kind of just want to see them interview Beretti. See how the rest of this junket goes. Yeah,
you want an Almost Famous style film.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's disappointing. What can be said? I did enjoy the Amber Mid-Thunder scene where she's like following her around and pretending she's not chasing her. That's the biggest laugh. Just like pretending she's not following her and she has to like jog and put her hands in her pockets when she turns around. Act like she's not. Very stupid visual gag, but very funny. Yeah, it's disappointing. And we'll be back with maybe more disappointing A24 stuff in the next couple weeks. And we'll be back next week with Ash and Locked. Probably double feature there, and head on over to Patreon. Hopefully Jesse and I will record something on Snow White and or whatever I promised last week that we didn't do yet. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It keeps us going. All right, bye.
Death is not the end. Beginning of a new flesh. The new flesh.
Horror lifestyle.
Forgive me if I don't stay around to watch. I just can't cope with freaky stuff.